Okay, what we're not going to do is judge the fact that I'm wearing the same clothes. And it's potentially the following day. What we're also not going to do is judge my fucking face right now. Because I've been crying all day. Because I keep thinking about my dogs and it's making me very sad. Okay, something else we're not going to do judge wise regarding me is uh in the general vicinity of just how I am, how I am right now, especially. Guys, I'm like, I'm not burnt out. I'm not burnt out. It's not like there's like nothing left or anything, but like, I'm I just got a lot going on all the time, and um, I'm in transition again, as always. Uh, and this one's weird and hard. And so this one's just like me just being like, okay, fine, fine, fine. I'm giving it all up. Because I don't know what the fuck. Because I don't know. So I'm done trying to control it. Fine. Give it all up. But it's hard and it's scary. I had this dream one time. Okay, dream time. Dream time. I've already talked about the weird dream life that I've had a little bit, but I haven't actually like explained any of my dreams. And I'm going to. And when I do, people think I'm just making it up. People think I'm just like, it's like either I'm like reiterating some story I heard or putting together movies or some shit, or like that I'm just making it up on the spot. And they're like, how do you remember all of that? But the thing is that it's just like that. You can probably sit there and if you really wanted to describe a movie that you watched, especially if it was like one that was like a virtual reality movie that you were actually like part of or that revolved around you. If there's a movie that revolved around you and your personal feelings, like it'd probably be easy to remember. You'd think people remember fucking movies and quotes from movies and stuff, like fucking entire movies that other people have written and acted in. So like I just happen to uh, always be a little bit more than usually lucid to my dreams. So like when I was actually like going through that lucid dreaming phase, like I was really deep in it because even before then my natural dreaming state was to be somewhat lucid. Um I'm always a little lucid. That's why I'm fucking insane. That's what it is. So anyways, let me tell you about this crazy dream I had one time that really stuck with me. Also, my dreams like stick with me. I remember them and they like mean things to me, and then they like are like in me and they become a part of me. They're like visions from the Lord. Okay, sorry. My eyes hurt from the tears. Don't you first off, don't tell me that that's not manly. It's manly to cry, and it's fine for me to cry because I'm not a man, and this has nothing to do with gender. But that's why my eyes are like this. Forget about my eyes, guys. Um, okay, so I had this dream one time, and it was like after. Sorry, it's like I'm pretty sure after I had separated from my ex-husband. I might have still been with him, but I'm pretty sure it was like right after we separated. And I had this weird dream, which is also I guess weird anyways, because like It's a weird time of my life. It's when I started getting into quantum theory and stuff. Um, okay, so I have this dream that I'm with my ex-husband's family, um, just like his dad, sisters, brother, uh, and I'm assuming that the nieces and nephews were there. There was the feeling of them being there, but I didn't actually see them in the dreams. And then his brother's wife, and we were in this hotel, which was like essentially it was essentially, and it had this feeling, and like is like the layout of the Radisson Hotel that we had a church in when I was growing up. Because that wasn't weird and culty at all for me to go to church in a hotel. Um, it was just a transitionary time for the church. Uh, but it was set up like that, kind of like the front of the way that that building was set up, only it wasn't. It was kind of like the same very front area, but then next to it, instead of what had been a sort of banquet hall that we had at one time been using as a church, and then we ended up renting one of the like office meeting seminar type rooms. Um, but in this banquet hall sort of room, in my dream, it was a master suite where it was like one of the best rooms that you could get because it was like right as soon as you walk into the hotel, which like I don't think that would actually be the greatest, but okay. It's like right as soon as you walk in, but it's like really big, and there were two different rooms that were attached to it, and like all these different amenities. And I remember that we're like talking about all these different things. But it's funny because like the room, like as we were in it, looked like this hotel room that I stayed in with the girls in my youth group when I was in high school. It was at that church, but I think it was when we even were like somewhere else potentially. Like I don't think that I think it was like later on. I know that it was later on. Um, so it was like this other hotel room that we had stayed one time up north when we had went. I don't know. We had gone on some sort of girls' retreat somewhere further north, Wisconsin. So that's what that. For some reason, that was the hotel room. I don't know why, and I don't know why I would remember those things. Obviously, those things like are in my subconscious a very specific way for a specific reason. I could embellish on those things, but that's not the point of what I'm doing right now. Okay, so that was all weird. We're all in there, and everybody's kind of like jolly and shit, and um, they're kind of just coming in, so it's a little bit chaotic. And my ex-husband's sister like has this award that was given to my ex-husband for his time served in the military as a Marine, but it she had like received it in the mail. Like I didn't even see Randall in the dream. And honestly, I think that like we were at the hotel we were at the hotel waiting to meet him, and he was supposed to be coming back from Iraq, I guess, probably, because that's where he had been deployed to. In my dream, I don't know for sure, but in my dream, he wasn't in it. We were like there waiting for him. Um, and that's why his sister had this. Like, she had received it in the mail, and it was the award for his deployment. And he was supposed to be awarded it, like, upon his arrival back to the States. But for some reason, they shipped it out and they didn't have the president sign it at the time, which is weird because when he served in Iraq, Bush was president. But at the time I had the dream, Obama was president. So in the dream, Obama hadn't signed it, but Biden had signed it. so weird. I had a couple different dreams with Obama in it. I've had a couple different dreams with presidents in it, which I find so bizarre. Um, it's just so random. But like, okay, so in the dream, the president hadn't signed it, and my ex-husband's dad had also been a Marine, and so he's like all offended. He's like, that's so disrespectful, like, and he's gonna sit here and come back from deployment, like, this is what they give them, like, because he had been in Vietnam too, so like he felt some type of way about it. And then the family's like, all, you know, we're trying to have a nice vacation time, and like we're excited for Randall to come back, and like we don't want him coming back to like this shitty energy, but like this award that they didn't even give him properly isn't even signed. And so everybody's kind of feeling some type of way, and Randall still isn't there yet. So I decide, well, conveniently, we're in luck because it just so happens that Obama is going to be directly next door to this master suite where there is this giant reception hall, which was not actually in the hotel that I went to church in. It just was in this dream set up that way. And somehow still like within the same structure of that hotel though. You know what I mean? Like within that same space, but that wasn't what was there. But in this reception hall, it's like a dark hardwood floor that's kind of shiny. There's a bunch of white plastic chairs, like the fancy looking ones, that are all lined up in rows for the press. There's two different sides. There's a podium for the president to speak at, you know, and the flag's set up behind it. And then, like, along the wall is all those, like, ranch style windows, I guess they are. I don't know if you would say ranch. They remind me of, like, those country farm windows, those big, they're not bay windows, but they're very large and, like, almost take up the whole wall. And that they're, like, all the way down the wall. And then there is double doors at the far end of the room, like large white French doors that open up. And there's a little, like, office sitting area, like conference room, and that's where essentially where the entrance of the actual hotel I went to church at was, but that's where the president was. He was in there, and they were waiting for all the press to come fill up, and then the president would come through the back, walk up to the podium, and then give his little speech. And there was 4 or 6 pillars, you know, to keep, like, pillars from the floor to the ceiling, square white ones that were just like, it looked hotel-y, but it looked kind of nice, it looked kind of fancy, it looked kind of equestrian for some reason. It gave me that feel. And this is where Obama's going to have a press conference apparently. So I decide that I'm going to wait until the end of his press conference. I'm going to wait until there's like a slight opportunity where only a few people are around, or hopefully nobody's around, and I'm going to see if he'll sign it, or I'm going to like let him know, like, hey, my husband's getting back from deployment in Iraq and this wasn't signed. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm all being all fucking caring about it, thinking I'm going to be all caring about it. Because I cared about my husband feeling, you know, honored. That was a big thing for me. And that was, okay. But anyways. So first, like, I have this, like, feeling that I'm going to, like, be some type of way, right? And I'm, like, all building up my confidence and stuff as I'm waiting for this press conference to finish. And I'm, like, trying to hype myself up. And I remember, like, I could hear from the room, like, Randall's dad, like, still kind of, like, bullshitting, you know what I mean? Or just, like kind of bitching about it. And, you know, I'm getting all riled up, like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna talk to the president. Like, I'm gonna say some shit. But then I see Obama come through the double doors. Like, I wait for the press conference to be over. Now it's over. I wait for Obama to come back out, and I was expecting him to come out with his bodyguards, but he didn't. He came out by himself, and he looked really, like, morose. He looked exhausted. He looked overwhelmed. He looked burdened, you know? Stoic about it still, but you can see that, and that's so funny because that's something I often actually see in dreams. Hold on, I need to turn this light on. It is getting dark in here. Okay, so that's, yeah, and that's something that I actually have had in dreams. I had a dream where Kevin Bacon was also like that, and I like was his friend, and he was like thankful for that. Anyways, so Obama's looking a type of way. He's looking burdened, and he like walks through the banquet hall and walks out. No, like where I'm at too, with our smaller French doors that open up on this side, and this is like the side entrance and stuff. And then all the press comes through larger French doors that are right here. And it's funny because like there was a room that's essentially is how the room was set up in the Radisson. Anyways, nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's why I'm moving on. Obama comes out. Obama comes out, and I'm standing there, and I realize that like this man doesn't need to be attacked about how he's not doing his job, because look at this thing that passed under the radar and how important me and my husband's lives are. Realize this is the fucking president of the United States, and he's probably dealing with a lot of shit that I don't know. And he's a man in this moment, and he is burdened. And I just see that. So like I just like, and I've done this in dreams before with other people where like they feel that way, and I just like empty myself, and then I'm just like there for them. And like I become just like the thing in the room that they talk to that like feels like a person. It feels like somebody's there, but like it doesn't, there isn't anybody there, but like it feels like somebody's there that they can talk to, and that this person has like all these different things to say that's like really insightful, but it's really just them in their hearts doing it, right? um so I just like become that energy. And he just starts telling me, we're like standing in the fucking hallway, and he just starts telling me, which is so funny too, because like you can tell in my subconscious, like this isn't coming full on facts, this is just pulled from my subconscious, right? Which I think is funny, because he tells me he's just a puppet, and he knew that that's how it would be, but he thought that he would be able to change it. And it's just so much bigger and so much deeper than he ever could have imagined. And that Congress has been hijacked. This is what he said. Congress has been hijacked by 13 bloodlines that uh and I don't know if he said when, but he said it has been hijacked. Congress has been hijacked by 13 bloodlines, and they're about to incite civil war. Or, I mean, they're about to incite martial law. Or, not incite, but declare martial law. And, I, I mean, I already knew everything even in between that stuff and everything. So, like, I knew exactly what he was saying, what was going on. And he was just like, his whole feeling was just like, I really thought that I might be able to stop it or delay it or make it something else, make it something good. I thought that there was some way that I could be doing good with it. Like, I understood so much in that moment as he was talking, and he said so little. But like, even when he said that, like, Congress has been hijacked by 13 bloodlines. He said, I'm just a puppet. He's like, nothing I do even matters. And he was just like feeling a type of way right in front of me, so vulnerable. But it was at that moment that like I remember like this sinking feeling in my stomach, because I was like, shit, like I really am just a random fucking nobody. I'm essentially like a person that came up for his fucking signature, right? And he's telling me all this, like, this really is about to be the fucking end. And um then like from where we were in the hallway, there was another hallway down this way. Now, like, so here's the conference room or whatever that he came out of. Here's the hallway that we're in, and then like right over here is another hallway. And you can see the end of the hallway from where you're standing, and you can see the opening to the front entryway or whatever here. You can see the opening to that hallway, and on the wall, you could see a reflection of what was coming down the hallway, like as a shadow on the wall, if that makes sense. Um, because of the lights that were in the hallway, it was like a shadow cast onto the wall, and what you could see was police in ballistics gear, like SWAT gear, like military SWAT gear, ballistics gear, and you could hear them marching, and then like you could see like from where I was looking, like so I'm looking at the shadows casted on the hallway, and as I'm looking at that, you can kind of see in the entryway at the far end of the hallways that start down that way that there's like army dudes or whatever, like dressed in full ballistics gear, black ballistics gear or whatever, lines of them, rows of them marching with every which way or whatever. Just a little bit, you can sense movement, you can hear movement behind you, you can hear that there's marching behind you, you can hear that there's marching coming down this way. And like as soon as the marching starts, Obama takes off. And I don't remember where he took off, but I remember that I like moved slightly to be able to look down the hallway. And when I looked down the hallway, I saw that from both, at the end of the hallway was a T, another hallway, you know, like a T intersection. And there was soldiers coming this way and soldiers coming this way, all in black ballistics gear. And they had guns, and they were just like, they had fucking automatic rifles and shit, and were just mowing people down. And like, just, there was, and then like, as they were coming through, like, it was like the fucking Shining, where there was just like so much blood just like pouring down the hallway, and the hallway just like filled with blood. So that was a little dramatic. But it was pretty obvious that martial law had been declared. And I remember at that moment, like, I just knew, like, well, for a second, I wanted to go in and get Randall's family. I didn't get the signature, by the way. I wanted to go in and get Randall's family, and I think I heard the guns even in there killing Randall's family, and I was like, there's no way out of this. And I don't know if I went in there, or it was as I was just like standing there, or if I even turned and tried to go somewhere else, but I was still right in that little area. It was almost like I was like in front of the door, and I could hear that right behind the door they were shooting Randall's family. And then like I like just turned, and from behind me, like when I turned behind me, I was suddenly looking at the entryway, the second entryway of this Baptist school I went to in 5th and 6th grade, where the second entryway, like not the main one that we went through that went to the gymnasium, but the smaller one at the other end, or the front end of the school building, where it would go upstairs to the high school classrooms, or it would go downstairs into the cafeteria, and then the elementary classrooms were in the back that way. The elementary school classrooms were also in the back though. The Christian schools I went to were always kindergarten through 12th grade. So you literally had all elementary and all of high school in the same building, in a small building, and usually in the basement of a church. Those were the kind of schools that I went to. But for some reason, when I turned around in this hotel, suddenly, like, that's what I'm looking at, is that entryway. And I'm being led by one of the soldiers. He has me in the arm, and he's like leading me down into the cafeteria. And as we go down the stairs, you know, there's this entryway, and as you come down the stairs, you can see the cafeteria open up, and you can see what's in the cafeteria at that point. And instead of the tables being lined up, it's a real long cafeteria, and it's in the basement, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of shallow ceilings, and instead of there being any tables, there's just a long line of people that like goes all the way down to the back, comes all the way up around, and then like kind of spirals around itself a little bit at the end. And all of the people have black robes on, and they have black hoods over their heads. And all the Bliskets dudes in their military gear. Like, there were some dudes in camouflage, but most of them were all in black. Some was like a mix. But they all had rifles and shit. All of them, no. Some of them had their faces covered. Some of them had them open. Just military people. But they, like, as he's taking me down, he, like, slipped a black robe over me and then slipped a black hood over my head. And I remember that, like, you could kind of, like, see through the hood, but you couldn't, but you could. And then, like, in my dream, like, I literally, it was so wild because, like, this dream lasted for fucking ever. And, you know, they always say that, like, that's just because your brain moves so quickly that, like, it feels like it took forever when really it was just a matter of moments. And perhaps that's true, but, like, the shit is super in depth. And what I do remember is that, like, I remember it feeling like torture and it, like, wreaking havoc on my anxiety, the intensity of the buildup of the time that it took. Like, the thing was that I couldn't get out of this dream. And I was like, it became more and more real as I'm standing in this line, and one by one, as the spiral comes around, people are getting set in front of a fucking rifleman who's shooting them in the face, shooting them straight between the eyes. And then two dudes drag their bodies off and throw them in a closet. And then they bring another person and they do it again. And they just keep doing it. And one by one, everybody's getting shot in the head. And they're getting asked weird religious questions about their faith prior to getting shot. Which is stuff that I was taught about in school, right? Because I went to these Christian schools and shit. So, like, I was taught about these things being things that were going to happen. It's very weird that I'm randomly having this dream. Like, during this weird time of my life when I'm separating from my husband and shit. And, like, I'm pretty sure, like, this is when I started doing coke again. And, like, I don't know. Weird dream. It's not that I was on coke or that I was, like, drunk or high or anything when I had this dream. It's just not that I was in some, like, super spiritual, like, point in my life to be having this type of dream. But as a spiral came, and I remember, like, I mean, there was a good at least 12 people that I was trying to dissociate. I was trying to wake up. I was trying to, like, not be experiencing what I was experiencing. I was closing my eyes. I couldn't, my hands were cuffed behind my back or tied behind my back somehow. I think cuffed there. And I just had my head down, and I think there were maybe even shackles on my ankles. And, I don't know for sure. I mean, I don't remember them putting them on, but I remember having my hands behind my back, and I just remember, like, I couldn't do anything aside from just walk a little bit forward, one at a time. Let's walk forward. The body drop, then drag them off. Let's walk forward. And it happened for, like, at least 10 to 12 people before I, like, checked out. And then when I checked back in was when I was being shifted into the position of being put onto my knees in front of the fucking rifleman, looking the rifle straight down the fucking barrel. And it's so weird because, like, I mean, at this point now, like, I'm in a different part. Like, I've, like, moved almost around the entire cafeteria. And I'm, like, literally in the fucking cafeteria. Like, I'm in that space, you know what I mean? That I, like, this school. It's, like, it was just very, very bizarre. It was very strange. And, like, behind me, there's still a line of people. You know, and there's, like, a trail of blood from where they've been dragging all the bodies, and, like, you can smell the death in the air, and, like, you can smell the fucking gunfire. Like, I remember that. I remember not only could you smell the gunfire, you could smell the warmth of it. Like, you could feel it in the air. And the thing was that, like, as I was looking down the barrel of the gun too, like, I remember, like, having all these thoughts going through my head as to, like, how I was going to try to stop it, what I was going to do, like, how I was going to even be able just to process that it was happening. And, like, I'm trying to think about these things as I'm literally watching him pull the trigger. And as I'm watching the bullet come out of the fucking rifle, and I'm watching it like come straight at my fucking face, and it's happening in slow motion, and I can't stop it. And I remember the feeling of it hitting my head and like entering my skull. And like it was like this searing pain, this hot searing pain that was so intense and so fast. I couldn't like I couldn't process it. And like I remember like feeling like, oh shit. And like almost feeling paralyzed as my body dropped to the ground. And I remember not really feeling my body drop to the ground. I almost felt like my body dropped out of myself. I heard it hit the ground. I kind of felt it hit the ground, but at the same time, I was still sitting there trying to process the fact that a fucking bullet had just entered my brain. And like, I'm being dragged at this point. My body's being dragged to the closet. And it wasn't until like somebody else had shifted into that same position and been shifted onto their knees that like now I'm like my consciousness is back with that body or whatever, I guess. And I feel myself get thrown. I don't necessarily feel myself at this point as much as I see myself get thrown onto this pile. And like the pile that I get thrown onto in this closet, it's funny because the closet, there wasn't a closet there in the cafeteria. The closet is where the entrance to where the grade school classrooms were, the hallway to where the grade school classrooms were. Instead of that, it's just this, well, what it seems like at first is that it's this dark closet, okay? And filled with bodies. Filled with bodies. And then, like, and it's all dark and gray and dark blue. And, like, that's all you can see. It's dark blue. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that, like, the bodies start changing. And they start to wake up. And when they wake up, they have white robes on instead of black robes. Like, all of a sudden, and, like, they just, as they wake up, their robes are suddenly white. And, the first one that woke up had blonde hair and blue eyes, like real bleach blonde hair and real bright blue eyes and real pale skin. And I remember when they woke up being like, oh my God, it's an angel. And then being immediately kind of like, why would you be here? And then being kind of confused. And then I saw my brother. And I was like, I broke down and I was like, my brother, I was like, I knew it. Like, I always knew it. Like, I always knew that, like, that was what was so weird and so strange, but, like, how crazy that it's true that, like, out of all of us, so few of us in the entire world to be in that exact position, and then, like, out of all of them to be, like, me and him, like, I was like, I knew it. And I remember that being, like, this good feeling, this weird feeling, and all of a sudden being like, oh, right, this is my family. And then, like, I felt like, oh, right, like, this is it. Like, suddenly I knew that, like, that there was a mission and that, like, this was the transfer into it. And I, like, turned, and now it wasn't just a closet. No, like, all of those people were standing still in the over in the corner. But when I turned and looked, what I was looking at was, like, a giant window that looked out to a tunnel exit system, like this giant open, in Star Wars what the spaces looked like for the I have only seen it a couple times. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at it, but like, where like the star flyers on the fucking Death Star, like when they fly in, like those uh they're almost like shafts within the structure, right? Where like the planes can fly in and out of, and they have to just like, you know, so it's kind of like, and like with all the lights in it and stuff like that, and how everything's like white and gray and like futuristic looking, and then all the lights and shit. So it's essentially like that, only it's it's vertical instead of horizontal. Like it's not for the planes to fly in like this, it's for the planes to fly in like this somehow, I guess, or they actually like hover up into it. And it's more like that, like it's like it almost has like this um for some reason it in my head, like as I'm looking at it, in my head I'm thinking like not dumpster system, but it's a disposal system. Technically that's how it's working, but it is the port for crafts, for aircraft. But how it works is that there's a gravitational force in that shaft that lets like the planes just have to fly into it. They and then their engines are shutting off as it like levitates them up and then pushes them into whatever spaces. And then like it also like all they have to do is come out into it, and then it like forces them down. Okay, so it's some sort of weird, and I innately understand this technology when I see it and stuff too. Like I'm like, oh right, like that, like okay, like this, like, and I kind of like have this like okay, right. The blonde person, Angel, the blonde, it's in my dream. It's obviously an angel. Okay, I don't even believe in angels, or I believe something different about angels. Actually, this is what I believe about angels. So the blonde kid is standing in front of this what looks like the old, well, the ones that they had from like the 90s through the 2000s toll booths, but the ones that like you just had to throw the change in and then kept going. You didn't have to like talk to a person, just the ones where you threw the change in. Essentially one of those, only it's white and nice looking and like a little more futuristic, but it's literally that. And on it is pictures with little images of the things that you have to get rid of. um which is funny. It's like emojis, right? And like it's such a funny concept, but like I look at this thing and I look at the kid, and because that also they were genderless. I have no idea what gender that person was. And then I look at the shoot, and like as I'm looking at the shoot, I'm like, okay. And I like immediately take out my wallet, and I take my first I took my ID out of my wallet and my credit card, and I threw them in. And then I took my cash out and I threw it in, and then I threw my wallet in. And then I took off my shoes and I threw my shoes in. I'm trying to think. I think I even took off my glasses and threw my glasses in, perhaps. And then I was like, it was like the person was still waiting for me, or like it was still waiting for me. And I was like, oh no, like for real? And I looked up and I was looking at my wedding ring, and I was like, even that? Like, you're really gonna ask me even to give up that? Like, that was a concept I thought was part of what was making me valid to be a righteous person, right? So like it was so crazy that that's what I was being asked to sacrifice. But I remember like thinking about it for a second, and then being like, the fact I'm even taking a second to think about this is too much. And I took it off and threw it in. And as soon as that happened, the kid kind of like smiled at me, and then gave me my white robe. And then I pretty much like, so I guess I like went into this machine then and put myself into this machine. And then when I went into the machine, what it did was that it put me into the chute, and then I got shot out of the chute, right? But I guess what the chute also does essentially is like it like puts you where you need to be. This is how I learned how this works, I guess. It's like like I said, like when you put your soul in the space of being able to like be nothing for the sake of anything, um, you make this allowance where like your soul can be used in all these other ways and like in the astral realm for all these other purposes. And like that essentially is the point, but it's about being able to do it like with some sort of consciousness attached, not just to do it blindly. Um, so it sends me like, okay, so I get the white robe and then I pretty much like, the dream shifts, but like what happened was essentially that like I get in the machine shoots me out, right? The dream shifts and suddenly I wake up. I don't wake up. I like become conscious. I just become aware of myself. You know, like those times where like you're sitting there and for no reason you start to become like weirdly aware of yourself. It was kind of that feeling. Only as I became aware of myself, I became aware that I was a 12-year-old Ukrainian girl. I had blonde hair. I had this fucking like Tweety Bird backpack, like this old tattered Tweety Bird backpack that I'm pretty sure had been donated from America at some point in time to like wherever. Like I'm pretty sure that that's what was going on. I don't like it wasn't even my backpack, but it was my backpack. It was just like I like the clothes I was wearing, the person that I was. Like I became very aware of the person that I was, and the person that I was a very poor like Ukrainian girl. And I was running from these Russian men who had dogs. This is back when Obama was president. This is back in fucking 2013 probably is when I had this dream. I don't like, and the only reason like I know that it was Ukrainian and Russian like is based on like the languages. I knew that they were speaking Russian and that I didn't understand them, but that the language that I spoke was like similar to theirs. And like based on like the way that I looked and the way that I felt, like I don't think no, but I was like, and I like I'm 12 years old. In my dream, at least that's the way that I feel for some reason. And I have this backpack, and like the thing about it is that like I'm I'm like I wasn't expecting to be in this position, and I was not expecting to be alone. And I'm assuming I was orphaned at some point, or like obviously separated from my parents, and or at least my mom, and like I'm running to protect myself, and like I've already been caught, and like now I'm like like not caught but found, and so I'm running and trying to re-hide again. And like I can hear these Russian dudes yelling, and I'm like in this cabin, I'm like everything I'm in a war zone. I can hear that there's helicopters and shit. I can feel the chaos. I can hear that there's bombs in the distance and shit. And the houses that I'm in right now are cold because it's cold there. It's very dry everywhere. It's like mostly like it's just like dry plants and stuff, but it's like cold. It's like Siberian kind of, right? It like has that feel to it. And it is cold, and I'm only in a t-shirt and jeans, and I have this backpack. I don't think I had a sweater even. Like I was very not in a good situation. And the house that I'm in is like it's not an abandoned house. It's a house that had been exploded. A house that had to have been left, you know what I mean? Because it's like barely even a house. It's just like parts of walls still standing and like barely part of a roof. And you know, I'm hiding underneath this like little table, and I'm just trying to be super quiet. And I remember that like as I became conscious to myself that this is who I am, I immediately became conscious of what my mission was, and that I was that girl. That girl was in a position where she was so traumatized and so dissociated from that trauma, like from that fear. She became so scared that she dissociated. And in that dissociation, the universe came to her and filled that void for her to give her the strength to be able to do what she needed to do to survive. She was dissociated that entire time. She wasn't even doing it. An angel was doing it for her, right? That's how it works. It was literally me, but like it wasn't me. It was just me doing what I needed to do. It was just, I was aware of it, but like it was really, really weird. It was really, really weird. And yeah, like the moment that I realized that I was her and that she was completely dissociated at that time, I was like, oh, okay, we got this. And I like kept her quiet. I kept her breathing extra quiet because she had been so scared, and like I kept her breathing extra quiet. And then like this second that we could, we got out, and we got out a quiet way, and like the way that we went was a different way than she would have gone, and we ended up like being able to sneak away. And like I was only her for like 4 minutes. It wasn't that long of a time, but I was her for those moments. And I was her only because I happened to be available, and I could do the job better than she could at the time. That's it. Like it you know, it wasn't like something, it was just like being hired for that for a time. And like that was the contract, and it was a small one, and it was just extremely enlightening. um and like since then, like I had one time, okay, so that was the dream. Then I woke up and that was it. So that was the weird fucking dream I had. A weird dream. I've had a lot of weird dreams, and like even dreams like that, but not exactly like that. And that one like taught me a lot. But then like there was one time that I used to have deja vu all the time, and then I didn't, and then I had it like, it started getting obnoxious, like to the point where I was having it very consistently, and it was really, really potent, and it was like I could tell you as it was happening before it was happening. And then the things would happen, and people would be like, the fuck? And I'm like, because of deja vu, like I'm telling you. And it got really, really crazy for like a year. And then I started the lucid dreaming, um, weird shit. And that went on for like a year and a half. And then after that, like I kind of realized, that if I paid attention to my dreams, and if I could focus in on my dreams, and if I could continue to do that in my dreams, then I could be aware of those things. So I stopped having the deja vu. And I haven't had deja vu for an extremely long time at this point. You know, like 10, 12 years, something like that. Except for this one time where I had, and this is still a while ago, maybe it's at least 6 years ago, but no more than 10 years ago. It's probably about 10 years ago, actually, now that I think about it. I just had this weird random deja vu, and like I said, I hadn't had it in a little bit. At that point, I hadn't had deja vu in probably like a year, almost 2 years. And I randomly had it, and it like, even when I started to have it, I remember being like, oh, well, that's weird, because I haven't had deja vu in a while. So like I kind of like paid attention to it. And very quickly it became very weird, because it wasn't my deja vu. It was my grandma's deja vu. And it wasn't deja vu. It was a flashback. It was the feeling of deja vu, but what I was experiencing was a flashback of my grandmother's life. I flashed back to a time when my grandma was 13 and was just like out playing with a bike or something. I don't even remember. Like, it was just like this weird, the feeling of it was what it was. And the thing that was like, I started watching it, but the thing about it was because all of a sudden it was like, wait, this isn't me. This isn't even my memory. Like, where the fuck is this coming from? And then all of a sudden I was like, that's my grandma? Like, what is this? Like, what is this? that was weird. And then as soon as I like started trying to figure it out, then the feeling went away. And that's often how deja vu works, you know? So that was weird. But that's the whole thing about time and space, is because like it all exists right on top of itself, and like just as much as you can go forward in time, you can go backward in time. You can also exist as anyone, anywhere, at any point in time. That's the cool thing about it. But like you only can do that on the astral realm. Like that's where people get confused because they try to do it, and that's again the stupidity of black magic, because you can't trying to do that in the physical realm is doing something like very different from that. It's like trapping you to it. So the people that die without having released their identities from those concepts continue to leave energies around, continue to leave energies around after they die, those residual energies. And then those can be picked up by people that are themselves susceptible to them or heightened by those things. Or those people can heighten those energies in certain spaces. I can see that making sense. I cannot stress enough that I'm pretty sure I'm possessed by my dead dad. And that's what all of this has been about this whole time. I don't know how my dream about Obama. You want to hear my other dream about Obama? I was fucking working at a dog daycare. It was around the same time. It was when Obama was president, but I was working at the dog daycare, and in my dream, I'm at work. Normal stuff is happening. I'm just working with the dogs in the back, and all of a sudden, my manager comes in and is like, Obama's coming. I was like, what? And she's like, get everything ready because Obama's coming. So it's like, okay. So I kind of just like make sure the dogs are all kind of chilled out. Anytime that a visitor would come, they'd all get super, super riled up. And then you'd potentially have them like trying to eat each other while you're trying to show people how nice it is at the daycare. So I'm sitting there trying to calm the dogs down for when he comes in. And he comes strolling in, all Obama and presidential, in a fucking suit. I wish I could remember what he said. I had it written down at one point because it was absurd. It was something so stupid, but it was just like something like, and I remember being excited that he was there, and it was like, that was the second time I dreamt about him. And I remember being like, why am I dreaming about Obama? Like, the fuck is going on here? But I also had a dream one time, I'm gonna just keep talking. I also had a dream one time with Bill Clinton, and that one was weird because at the time I didn't know much about politics. Like, in the dream, I think there's like a mouse or something over there. I hear it. In the wall. So in the dream, it's kind of, it looks like this one specific curve on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, and it's kind of as if that's kind of where it is. I think it's like on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. It's something like that, but I'm pretty sure that's where it was. And like in my dream, they like shut it down in order to have this parade, and it's World Day Parade. It's a World Day Parade, and at this World Day Parade on LSD on Lakeshore Drive, they're having it's like a huge thing where like they have all of these different countries being represented in the parade, and then they have a grandstand like area where all of these different political figures are going to be there to watch the parade. Not that they're necessarily going to like, they'll probably have little speeches or something, and not that they're necessarily like interacting with the public, but like then the public can look at them, and like it's just like this thing that they're having, you know, is for the parade or whatever. And I'm like, the weird thing about it is because like I get like dropped into the dream. I get dropped into the parade when I like in the dream, I like spawn into the middle of the parade. And I'm like, I'm like this, where all of a sudden I'm like caught up in all the people, and I'm caught up in the people, and I'm like getting tripped over because all the people are like walking. They're in the fucking parade, and they're all like, who the fuck is this? Like, why is this person like, where'd they just come from? It's kind of like I traveled through time and then just created a little portal and then just showed up in the middle of the parade. Those the people are kind of like, what the fuck? But they're like carrying their flags and shit, and they have specific things that they're trying to do in the parade, so like they just keep it going, and they just like nobody stops to acknowledge me. So I kind of like turn around and kind of like walk as if I'm in part of the parade, and I kind of like walk through the people until I can get up by the grandstand, and then I sneak behind the grandstand. As I'm doing that, I'm noticing the different flags. I see the Japan flag. I see the Chinese flag. I see um, the German flag. I see Iran's flag. I see like Kazakhstan, I think it is, if that's the green one. Or is that Iran's? No, I think it's like Kyrgyzstan or Croatia. It's one of those ones where it's like a green flag with a red, I think it's a lion on it. And the Russian flag, the Korean flag, North Korean. I don't know the difference between the North Korean and the South Korean, but it's the one that's, I think it's either red, white, and blue, or white and blue, or white and red. It has like a white, it's like the two colors, and then it has the white circle thing, looking thing in the middle. And what flag is it that has like the sun, the beaming sun on it? It's, I think it's either yellow or orange. I can't think exactly what the flag looks like, but I can think of the symbol of the sun. So there's like a lot of different, and like that's not even all of them. Those are just the ones that I happen to see. But like it's supposed to be like all of, I'm assuming like all of the countries that are affiliated with like the UN or whatever. And because like that's once I get to the grandstand and like get over back by there, like that's apparently who's supposed to be in the grandstand. It's like the whole UN or whatever. Something like that. That was the feeling of it. That's what I'm thinking in my head. What the fuck ever. But I'm like hiding behind the grandstand because I'm not supposed to be there, right? And from where I'm at, for some reason, nobody's noticing me. Nobody sees me. And I'm like extremely close from where I can see, from where I'm sitting, I can see Bill Clinton and, see, Gorbachev was in England though, wasn't he? He wasn't Russia. Wasn't, fucking, what was that rhinoceros's name? Boris Yeltsin? Wasn't that the prime minister of Russia? I think Gorbachev, for some reason I was thinking the name Gorbachev, but I don't think that's who it was, because when I was looking at it, it was actually the prime minister of Russia at the time of Clinton's presidency, which was when I was a kid. So like what I'm seeing happening is something that apparently happened before, because I'm like in my 20s at this time, right? But Clinton was president back when I was like fucking like 4 or some shit. 2, 2, I think. 4, I don't know, 6, something like that. Maybe 6, 8 even. I don't know, but I was young, so like that's what's so weird about all these things. This time jumps. But they're talking to each other, and I'm like listening in on them, and I don't remember what they were saying, but at the time I could hear them. And the thing was that like how I was doing it was almost like, as it was almost like I was wired. Like I was like getting close enough where like I could hear what they were saying, but like I didn't actually hear what they were saying, and I was trying to act like I couldn't hear what they were saying. I was trying to act like I wasn't paying attention. And at one point I did actually hear what they were saying. And I remember like kind of responding a little bit where I almost like glanced at them. And then they looked over at me and they glanced at me. And as soon as they saw me, I was like, shit. And then I had to disappear. Like, I was like, shit, compromised. And then I got pulled out. The thing is that if I worked for the CIA, you'd think I'd have a lot more money. Except that every time they try to give me money, I'm like, no, I want to live this way. And I'm like, are you literally the most egotistical and prideful person that we know? You stubborn fuck. I said, no, I'm trying to prove a point. And they're like, bet you're stubborn. I'm like, no, it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm trying to prove the point about the money thing. And they're like, okay, well, do your thing, Jizz. Do your thing. And I do. Obviously. Do they like me talking about it? I don't know. We've gotten to the point where they let me, so. Do you guys like when I talk like an absolute schizophrenic? Because I do. I don't mean to say that like it's a bad thing. My uncle was severely schizophrenic, and I, like I said in other videos, literally asked therapists to figure out if I am or not, and they don't think I am. But when you hear me talk, the thing is that like then I'll start talking about my matrix theories and stuff, and like this is my therapist, my poor therapist, because I like when I start getting into those things, like I got a lot of shit to say about it that like validates it, and then I start getting those things, and then they're like, well, shit, now I'm getting delusional, so like please don't talk to me about that. And as long as you can survive in society, fine. I say just keep doing that. Meanwhile, listen, this is what it is. We don't. It is what it is. I'm like one person as much as I'm literally everybody. So I get to do whatever I want. That's what keeps it fun. That's what keeps it fun. Also, I like the idea of being able to put this shit out here and then potentially not post it if it's really like not something I want to post. At this point, I don't give a fuck. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to get it out there. But I like the idea of being able to get this shit out because then, like, if I ever happened to have an actual personal relationship, maybe they wouldn't have to be the ones to deal with the weirdest aspects of me. Maybe I can give those things to the public and they can do what they want with it and do something creative and crazy with it. And then, like, the more genuine, grounded aspects of myself can be shared with someone who can actually appreciate it. And then I can, like, actually appreciate them and not be a toxic fuck. That'd be cool. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on. At the same time, I'm also working on accepting the ways that I'm toxic and just being like that. I mean, it just is what it is. It's better for me to accept it and then not lie about it and then find the right types of people and assess all of that and then be like, okay, no, I can go from here than to keep playing these games. I literally haven't shut up all fucking day. I've just been talking. I've been so emotional, all sorts of hormonal. I'm on my feminine cycle, so I'm like all sorts of crazy. It's not that, but it's definitely a part of that. There's a lot going on, but like, boy, I've just been out of my fucking mind for like a week and a half, a couple weeks almost now. Ever since I got back from fucking working at Bonnaroo, and it didn't have anything to do with Bonnaroo. It had to do with the space that I've been in, the environment, and company. I keep changing and I keep transitioning and I keep going through things and figuring out different things and life keeps changing and I'm just trying to go with it. You know, that was gonna happen one way or the other. They think they're gonna stop me. Like, baby, I'm just taking a little breaky poo because I can. Because I'm gonna watch you pretend that you're even trying. And then I'm going to blow out all those miseries. In a good way. In a good way. We're going to make this good. We're going to turn it all around. This, like, anything that is perceived as anything but good. Everything's good. I'm very thankful for things. I'm beat, obviously. I keep crying. That's why I look so tired, because I am tired. Also, I didn't sleep very well at all last night. Hopefully, I will sleep more tonight. Weird dreams. Weird dreams, but it's alright. It's alright. I know what's going on. I don't care. It's not that I don't care. I'm trying to care about the right things. So I don't care about, like, the fact that my feelings are hurt. Let myself cry when, like, there's something fucking else going on. It's not hurting anything. I can get those emotions out. And then I move on. Sorry y'all can't do that. That keep fucking hinging on my bad experiences, hoping that that's going to bring me down. People that like to see me miserable are gross and dumb and pathetic and fucking retarded. To be clear. Okay, I'm not here just trying to be mean. I'm not here just trying to be mean. I'm gonna watch like a movie or something. I don't know. Weird videos. These are just gonna keep being weird videos until I figure out what the fuck. So enjoy.